Imagine two people standing side by side. One person earns $200,000 a year. They drive a shiny black SUV, live in a house with a tall fence, and wear clothes that look like they cost a month of rent. The other person earns $60,000 a year. They drive an old sedan, live in a small apartment, and buy their clothes at the local mall. If I asked you who is richer, you would point to the person with the SUV every single time. But you would be wrong. This is the great lie of the modern world. We have been trained to look at how much money flows into a bank account, but we never look at how fast it flows out. This is the high-income poverty trap. It is a world where you are rich on paper, but broke in reality. It is a world where you have a big title and a big paycheck, but if you stopped working for just 30 days, your entire life would fall apart. Most people think that the solution to all their problems is more money. They think if they could just get that promotion or that new job with the higher salary, they would finally be free. They think the stress would go away. But for many people, the exact opposite happens. The more they earn, the more they suffer. They fall into a trap that is built out of gold and fine leather. It is a trap that is very hard to see because it looks like success. When you earn more, the world tells you that you deserve more. Your friends tell you to upgrade your life. Your bank tells you that you can afford a bigger loan. So you buy the bigger house, you get the nicer car, you put your kids in the expensive private schools. Suddenly your monthly bills are $10,000. To pay those bills, you have to work harder than ever before. You can't take a vacation. You can't take a risk on a new business. You can't even get sick. You are a high-earning slave to your own lifestyle. You are running on a treadmill that is set to a very high speed, and if you trip, the crash will be devastating. The reason this happens is simple. We confuse income with wealth. Income is the water flowing through a pipe. Wealth is the water that stays in the tank. Most people focus entirely on making the pipe bigger. They want a fire hose of money coming in, but they don't realize that their tank has a giant hole in the bottom. No matter how much water you pump in, the tank stays empty. In fact, when the water pressure goes up, the hole in the bottom usually gets bigger too. This is called lifestyle creep. It is a silent killer of dreams. It starts small. You get a 5% raise, so you start eating at nicer restaurants. You get a bonus, so you buy a better watch. Eventually, you reach a point where you are making more money than you ever imagined, yet you are still checking your bank balance before you buy groceries. This is a terrifying place to be because you have nowhere left to go. You are already at the top of the mountain, but you are still freezing. Let's look at the math of this trap. If you earn $5,000 a month and spend $4,000, you are saving $1,000. That is your profit. If you get a promotion and now earn $10,000 a month, but your new lifestyle costs you $9,500, you are only saving $500. Even though your salary doubled, your wealth is actually growing slower than it was before. You are working twice as hard for half the result. But it's even worse than that. Because your lifestyle now costs nearly $10,000, your safety net needs to be much bigger. A person spending $4,000 a month only needs $12,000 to survive for 3 months. But you, with your expensive house and cars, now need $30,000 just to survive that same amount of time. You have become more fragile. You have more to lose, and you are losing it faster. This is why high earners are often the most stressed people in the room. They aren't worried about getting rich. They are worried about losing the appearance of being rich. The trap is also psychological. We use money to signal our status to others. We want people to know we are doing well. In the United States, we have built a culture where doing well means spending money. We see a person in a beat-up car and assume they are struggling. We see a person in a luxury car and assume they are winning, but the truth is often the opposite. The person in the old car might have $1 million in the bank and no debt. They are the ones who are truly winning because they own their time. The person in the luxury car might be one missed paycheck away from the repo man taking their keys. They don't own the car. The bank owns the car, and the car owns them. When you spend your income to look rich, you are trading your future freedom for the temporary approval of strangers who don't actually care about you. It is a bad trade. It is like burning your house down just to keep your neighbors warm for 5 minutes. To escape this, we have to change how we define a rich life. Real wealth is not about what you buy. Real wealth is about what you can afford to ignore. It is the ability to say no to a boss you don't like. It is the ability to spend a Tuesday afternoon with your family because you want to, not because you have the day off. If your high income requires you to be chained to a desk for 60 hours a week just to pay for a house you are never in, you aren't rich. You are just a high-priced tenant in a fancy building. You are living in a poverty of time and a poverty of peace. The high-income poverty trap is a choice we make every time we choose a toy over a tool. A toy is something that loses value and takes money out of your pocket every month. A tool is something that holds its value or puts money back into your pocket. Most people fill their lives with toys and wonder why they feel so heavy. If you want to be truly wealthy, you have to learn to live like a low-income person while earning a high income. This doesn't mean being cheap or living in a basement. It means keeping your needs small so your freedom can be big. It means building a gap between what you earn and what you spend, and then guarding that gap with your life. That gap is where your freedom lives. That gap is your ticket out of the rat race. Without that gap, you are just a hamster on a very expensive wheel. The world will try to pull you into the trap. It will show you ads for things you don't need. It will make you feel bad for not having the latest gadgets. But remember the teacher and the executive. The teacher who saves $500 a month is moving toward freedom. The executive who earns $20,000 but spends it all is moving toward a heart attack. One is building a life, the other is building a cage. To understand why so many smart, hardworking people fall into this hole, we have to look at the middle-class scam. This is a script that has been handed down to us for generations. The script says that as you get smarter and work harder, your life should look better. It says that success has a specific look. If you are a manager, you should live in this neighborhood. If you are a director, you should drive this brand of car. We follow this script without ever asking who wrote it. The truth is, the script was written by people who want to sell you things. It was written by banks that want to lend you money. When you follow the script, you are helping everyone else get rich while you stay stuck. You are essentially working for the car company, the mortgage company, and the credit card company. They are the owners of your labor. You are just the middleman who moves the money from your employer to their bank accounts. This is where the 50% margin rule comes in. This is the first step to breaking the trap. The rule is simple. No matter how much you earn, you should aim to live on only half of it. If you earn $100,000, you should try to live as if you only earned $50,000. This sounds impossible to most high earners because they are already committed to expensive payments. But that is exactly why it is a trap. If you cannot live on half of your income, you are not in control of your life. Your expenses are in control of you. By keeping your costs low, you create a massive margin of safety. This margin is your power. It is the money that buys your freedom. When you have a 50% margin, you are saving a year of living expenses for every year you work. In 10 years, you have 10 years of freedom tucked away. But if you spend 99% of what you earn, you can work for 40 years and still be only 1 month away from total ruin. The second part of the trap is what I call hidden taxes. I'm not talking about the money the government takes from your paycheck. I'm talking about the costs that come with owning expensive things. An expensive house doesn't just cost more in rent or a mortgage. It costs more to heat, it costs more to cool, it costs more to fix the roof. The taxes are higher, the insurance is higher. Even the people who come to mow the lawn or fix the sink will charge you more because they see the rich neighborhood and assume you can afford it. This is the tax of appearance. The more you own, the more those things own you. They demand your time, your energy, and your money just to keep them from breaking down. A high-income person often spends their entire weekend managing their stuff instead of enjoying their life. They are the unpaid caretakers of their own prison. We also have to talk about the toy versus tool logic. Think about the last big thing you bought. Was it a toy or a tool? A toy is anything that loses value and requires constant feeding. A luxury car is a toy. A boat is a toy. A closet full of designer bags is a collection of toys. And these things are fun for a week, but then they just become part of the background of your life. However, they continue to drain your bank account every single month. A tool, on the other hand, is something that works for you. A tool could be a piece of equipment for a side business. It could be an investment in a low-cost index fund. It could even be a book or a course that teaches you a high-value skill. Rich people spend their high income on tools that eventually pay for their toys. The paper rich spend their income on toys and hope they have enough left over for tools. They usually don't. One of the biggest reasons people stay in the high income poverty trap is social pressure. We all want to fit in. If all your coworkers are going on $5,000 vacations, you feel like you should too. If your siblings are buying new houses, you feel behind. We compare our behind the scenes reality with everyone else's highlight reel. We see the photos of their new kitchen, but we don't see the credit card statement or the late night arguments about money. We are competing in a race where the prize is actually a burden to escape. You have to be okay with looking unsuccessful to people who don't understand wealth. You have to be okay with driving the older car while your neighbor drives the new one. You have to realize that having a big bank account is much more comfortable than having a big driveway. Real confidence doesn't come from what you wear. It comes from knowing that if you lost your job tomorrow, you would be perfectly fine for the next 2 years. Let's talk about the inflation ceiling. This is a rule that says your cost of living should have a limit regardless of how much you earn. Most people have a moving ceiling. As their income goes up, their ceiling goes up. If they earn more, they spend more. To break the trap, you must build a permanent ceiling, decide what a good life looks like for you. Maybe it's a comfortable 2-bedroom home, healthy food, and one nice trip a year. Once you reach that level, stop increasing your spending. If your income goes from $80,000 to $150,000, that extra $70,000 shouldn't go toward a bigger house. It should go toward your freedom. By capping your lifestyle, you turn your high income into a wealth-building machine. You become a person who earns like a CEO but spends like a student. This is the secret path to becoming a millionaire next door. It's not about being a monk. It's about being a master of your impulses. The final part of this trap is the identity trap. Many people work so hard to get a high-paying job that the job becomes who they are. They feel like they have to act the part. They think, I am a lawyer, so I have to live like a lawyer. But lawyer is just a job. It is not a personality. When you tie your identity to your spending, you lose the ability to change your life. You become afraid that if you downsize or spend less, people will think you failed. But true failure is being 50 years old, earning a huge salary, and being terrified of your mailbox because you don't know if you can pay the bills. True success is having a life that is smaller than your income. It is having the space to breathe, the time to think, and the money to walk away from anything that no longer serves you. To truly understand how to beat this trap, we have to look at a concept called the debt anchor. When you have a high income, banks love you. They see your paycheck and they want to give you the biggest loans possible. They tell you that you qualify for a massive mortgage or a high-end car lease. But just because a bank says you can afford a payment doesn't mean you actually can. The bank doesn't care about your freedom. They only care about your ability to pay them interest for the next 30 years. When you take on these large payments, you are dropping a heavy anchor into the ocean floor. You might have a powerful engine in your income, but you aren't going anywhere because that anchor is holding you in place. You are forced to stay in the same harbor, doing the same job just to keep the ship from sinking. Imagine the difference between a person with no debt and a person with $50,000 in monthly expenses. The person with no debt is like a small, fast boat. They can change direction in a second. If they want to move to a new city, they go. If they want to start a business, they do it. The person with the massive bills is like a giant cargo ship. It takes miles and miles just to turn around. They are stuck on a fixed path. Most high earners think they are the captain of the ship, but they are actually just the engine room workers. They spend all day shoveling coal into the furnace just to keep the lights on. If they stop shoveling for even a moment, the ship goes dark. This is why rich on paper feels so heavy. It is the weight of all those promises you made to the bank. We also need to talk about the education trap. Many people who earn high income spent many years in school. They might have become doctors, lawyers, or engineers. During those years, they lived on very little money. They watched their friends start working and buying things while they were still studying. By the time they finally get that big paycheck, they feel like they are owed a good life. They want to make up for lost time. They think, I worked hard for 10 years. I deserve this luxury car. This is a very dangerous mindset. It is called revenge spending. You are trying to punish your past poverty by overspending in your present. But you aren't punishing the past. You are punishing your future self. You are taking the wealth you finally earned and giving it away to someone else immediately. The paper rich person often falls into the trap of professional upkeep. This is the idea that you have to spend money to stay in your high paying circle. You feel like you have to go to the same charity galas, play at the same golf courses, and drink the same expensive wine as your peers. You think that if you don't do these things, you will lose your connections or your status. But if your friendships and professional network are based entirely on how much money you spend together, you don't have a network. You have a customer list. Real connections are built on value, skill, and character. People who are actually wealthy, the reservoir wealth people, don't care about your car. They care about your brain and your reliability. In fact, many of the world's truly wealthiest people are hiding in plain sight. They wear simple t-shirts and drive 10-year-old trucks because they have nothing to prove. Let's look at the burnout cycle. This is the physical and mental cost of the high-income poverty trap. When your expenses are as high as your income, you have to work at 100% capacity all the time. You can't afford to take a lower-paying job that is more fun. You can't afford to take 6 months off to deal with health issues. This constant pressure leads to burnout. And what do people do when they are burnt out? They spend money to feel better. They buy retail therapy. They take luxury vacations just to escape the stress of the job that pays for the vacation. They buy expensive gadgets to distract themselves from the fact that they are tired. It is a vicious circle. You work hard to pay for the things that help you forget how hard you work. You are paying for a cure to a sickness that is caused by the way you earn your money. To break this cycle, you have to embrace the power of the pivot. A pivot is only possible when you have walkaway money. This is not millions of dollars. It is simply enough money to cover your basic needs for a year or two without a paycheck. When you have this, your relationship with your job changes. You no longer work because you times have times two. You work because you times choose times two. You can speak your mind more clearly. You can take bigger risks. Ironically, people who have walkaway money often end up making even more money because they aren't acting out of fear. They aren't desperate. In any negotiation, the person who is willing to walk away always has the most power. The person in the high-income poverty trap can never walk away, which means they have zero power. They are at the mercy of their boss, the economy, and their bills. The big secret is that it is much easier to shrink your way to wealth than to earn your way to wealth. Increasing your income is hard. It depends on your boss, the market, and luck. But decreasing your spending is 100% under your control. Every dollar you stop spending is a dollar of profit that goes directly into your freedom fund. If you cut $1,000 from your monthly spending, it is the same as getting a $15,000 raise at work because you don't have to pay taxes on the money you save. It is the fastest way to give yourself a promotion. Most people are waiting for a miracle to change their life, but the miracle is sitting right there in their bank statement. It's in the subscriptions they don't use, the rooms in the house they don't sit in, the clothes they don't wear. We need to redefine what it means to be a winner. In the old way of thinking, the winner was the person with the most stuff. In the new way of thinking, the grounded value way, the winner is the person with the most options. Options are the ultimate luxury. Having the option to wake up when you want, work on what you want, and live where you want is worth more than any designer watch. The high-income poverty trap robs you of your options. It trades a million possibilities for one fixed reality. It is a bad trade. You are giving up the entire ocean for a very fancy gold-plated bathtub. It might look nice, but you can't go anywhere in it. It's time to stop worrying about being rich on paper and start focusing on being free in real life. Now we reach the final part of the journey. To stay out of the trap for good, you have to master your internal compass. Most people navigate their lives by looking out the window. They look at what their neighbors are doing, what their friends are buying, and what the world says is normal. But normal in the modern world is being stressed, overworked, and deeply in debt. If you follow the crowd, you will end up exactly where the crowd is going, which is off a cliff. To be different, you have to look at your own dashboard. You have to decide what actually makes you happy. For most of us, happiness isn't a third car or a house with 6 bathrooms. Happiness is peace of mind. It is a quiet morning, a good conversation, and the feeling that you are in control of your own destiny. Let's talk about the investment gap. This is the space between your lifestyle and your potential. When you earn a high income, you have a rare opportunity. You have the fuel to build a massive wealth engine very quickly. But every time you increase your spending, you are leaking that fuel onto the ground. Imagine you have a rocket ship. If you keep the ship light, you can reach the moon in a few years. But if you keep adding heavy furniture, extra rooms, and expensive decorations to the rocket, it will never leave the launch pad. You will spend all your fuel just trying to lift the weight. The high income poverty trap is a rocket that never flies. It just sits there, burning millions of dollars worth of fuel while the pilot pretends they are traveling through space. This leads us to the rule of three houses. This is a logical way to look at your big purchases. The first house is the one you live in. The second house is the one the government takes through taxes. The third house is the one you buy with your savings and investments. Most people spend all their money on the first house and the taxes. They never build the third house, the freedom house. The freedom house is invisible. You can't show it off on social media. You can't park a car in front of it. But it is the only house that will protect you when the storm comes. It is built out of stocks, bonds, real estate, and cash. Every time you say no to a luxury item you don't need, you are adding a brick to your freedom house. Eventually, that house becomes so strong that you can live in it forever and you never have to work another day in your life. One of the most important things you can do to avoid the trap is to automate your freedom. We are all human and we all have moments of weakness. If you see a large balance in your checking account, you will be tempted to spend it. Your brain will find a reason why you need that new gadget or that expensive trip. To beat this, you have to move the money before you ever see it. Set up your bank account so that the moment your paycheck hits, half of it disappears into your investment accounts. If you never see the money, you won't miss it. You will learn to live on what is left. This is called paying yourself first. Most people pay the landlord, the car company, and the grocery store first, and then they try to save what is left, but there's never anything left. By paying yourself first, you treat your future freedom like a bill that times must times be paid. You make your success mandatory instead of optional. We also have to address the fear of missing out, or FOMO. This is the engine that drives the poverty trap. You see your friends posting photos from a 5-star resort in Europe, and you feel a pang of jealousy. You feel like you are missing out on life. But what you don't see is the stress they feel when they return to a mountain of credit card debt. What you don't see is the extra hours they have to work to pay for those photos. You aren't missing out on life. You are opting out of a cycle of stress. While they are buying moments with borrowed money, you are buying years with saved money. In 10 years, they will still be working that same high-stress job to pay for their memories. You, on the other hand, will have the wealth to travel whenever you want, wherever you want, for as long as you want. You aren't falling behind. You are taking a different path to a much better destination. Image of compounding interest over time graph. The ultimate goal of all of this is to reach critical mass. This is the point where your investments earn more money than your lifestyle costs. This is the moment the trap disappears forever. When you reach critical mass, your work becomes a hobby. You can still earn a high income, but you don't need times it. This is true power. This is the only way to be truly rich. A person who earns $1 million but spends $1 million is a zero. A person who earns $70,000 but has a wealth engine that pays them $80,000 is a king. Wealth is not a number on a paycheck. It is a ratio between your passive income and your expenses. If that ratio is greater than 1, you are free. If it is less than 1, you are still in the trap, no matter how many commas are in your salary. As we wrap up, I want you to take a hard look at your life. Are you building a reservoir, or are you just a bigger pipe? Are you buying tools that set you free, or toys that tie you down? The high-income poverty trap is comfortable. It feels good at first. It smells like new leather and looks like success. But it is a trap nonetheless. It steals your time, it kills your creativity, and it keeps you small. You were not put on this earth just to pay for a luxury car and a big mortgage. You were meant to create, to explore, and to lead. Don't let a big paycheck become a blindfold. Break the script. Cap your lifestyle. Build your margin. Stop trying to look rich and start focused on being wealthy. The world doesn't need more people in fancy cars who are stressed out of their minds. The world needs people who have the freedom to do great work because they don't owe anyone anything. The path is simple, but it isn't easy. It requires you to say no to a lot of things so you can say yes to your life. But I promise you, once you taste real freedom, the kind that comes from a full bank account and an empty calendar, you will never want to go back to the trap again. You will look at the luxury SUV and the giant house and see them for what they really are, just a lot of extra weight. And once you drop that weight, you'll be amazed at how high you can fly.